am I really gonna go back to the pub and like just do my own thing? But I just had such a strong feeling that I needed to do it. Seeing waste as a commodity and really understanding its value rather than discarding of it is like a hugely underappreciated like aspect of like fashion.
Lydia, thank you so much for coming today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So to start the conversation, I'd love to find out a bit more about yourself, your founder journey, and how you got to where you are today.
Yes. So I'm a slow fashion designer and I have an upcycling brand, but my brand isn't just about products. It's about like all the aspects of upcycling. So kind of working with other brands to upcycle their materials, showing consumers and like my audience how to upcycle as well as the products. So it's kind of like a real big sphere of different things within upcycling. And I always wanted to be a fashion designer since I was little. So my mum taught me how to sew when I was about 13. So I was always sewing and making stuff, being creative, and then went to university to study fashion. And alongside this, I was always brought up in a really eco household. Like my mum was really sustainable. So I'd been brought up in a very like environmentally conscious context, and then went to university, worked for a couple of years, but just in my personal life, being so kind of brought up within sustainability and really passionate about it, I kind of was always shop secondhand, always kind of like tried to buy food not in plastics and things like that. And then it just got to the point where I thought, my career really needs to reflect my personal values. Yeah, so I then quit my job, went to work in the pub, and slowly built up my brand.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a very brave move to do from working in like fashion, I guess, mainstream fashion, right? So then doing your own thing. Like, what was that transition like?
It was hard. The thing is, I'd taken a while to even get the job, like a year of, as like classic fashion, year of interning while working in the pub to even get my job. So I did feel a bit like, am I really going to just quit my job after I've taken a year of unpaid work to get here? I then worked for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I was like, am I really going to go back to the pub and like just do my own thing? But I just had such a strong feeling that I needed to do it. And so this was 5 years ago, where sustainability was a bit of a conversation, but nowhere near what it is now. And I just could sense that I wanted to really get into it and start it immediately, because I just felt like I knew it would become a big conversation, like it had to be. And I wanted to be as early on in that conversation as I could be.
Yeah, you wanted to be at the forefront.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And did you see the behind the scenes of the fashion industry and when you, I guess, put off of the traditional part of it? Like that, from that regard, or was it completely like not really on your radar?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I worked at House of Holland, so it was like contemporary women's wear. So it was like a premium brand. It wasn't a fast fashion brand. We kind of did fashion shows as well as like selling products. So it was a really fun place to work, and we did like creative stuff and then also lots of like different collaborations. But it wasn't necessarily that I was seeing like a really bad environment or anything like that.
All the waste.
And like all of the waste. You're aware of how much work goes in to clothing and like production and things like that, but it wasn't like a hugely wasteful place where I was.
Fair. And how did you make your first upcycle garment? Like, what was the process around that?
Yes, so I quit my job, decided that I was gonna use unwanted secondhand textiles, because I did this online course and I learned all about garment and textile waste, and I could see how I could use my skills as a designer and maker to provide a very small solution to this waste. And then at the same time, a singer messaged me, and they'd borrowed pieces from my graduate collection like 4 or 5 years prior, and she messaged me and said that she wanted a piece to wear to her Glastonbury performance with like BBC introducing or something like that. So she messaged saying, could she borrow something? And I said, actually, I'm now going to be just making upcycled pieces. Like, I'd love to make something for you. And she was really on board with that messaging and really excited. So that was my first thing I made, was an outfit for her.
Wow. Yeah. That's a big break for a first thing that you're making.
Yeah. And it also really gave me a focus, because I think when you start doing your own thing, it can be hard to really have a focal point. So it gave me a really good, like, okay, I'm going to make this piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good.
Was it a knitwear piece or was it something else?
No, it was kind of like, it was made from like loads of different like grey cargo trousers, and it was kind of tracksuity. So my style is always loads of different things at once. I have like sporty side and knitwear side, all different vibes mixed together. So this was in the more sporty side, yeah.
And where do you get your pieces that you're upcycling from? Is it from charity shops? Is it from like warehouses, wholesalers?
All different places.
Okay.
So I get a lot from charity shops. I get a lot from eBay if I'm like really need a specific thing, which often I do. I quite like remaking like fruity tea towels and tablecloths. So then I'm like specifically searching for the fruity pieces. And then also like people donate a lot of stuff to me, and then sometimes like go to trades warehouse and we'll get things from there if I need more like scale.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what's been your favourite thing that you've upcycled to date, would you say? I know it must be hard to pick.
That's really hard. It's really hard. I feel like my favourites are always, they're kind of all my favourite, and then they're always changing depending on what it is. I think my favourite things are probably things I do in brand partnerships. Like when I did the collaboration with Lime, I think those pieces probably at the moment are still my favourites because they were, really, it was like a big project. They were really fun to do, and they also were really solution-focused design, which I really enjoy doing.
Yeah. So tell me about the partnerships. I think that's so interesting, that the Line partnership, when I saw that, I was like blown away, because I think it was such a cool nexus point between like travel and sustainable travel, and then like fashion as well. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, it was, I think people were really surprised by it, which I think why people found it so interesting, because it was a real mix of different things, and like potentially quite unexpected that Lime would do this collection. So it was called the Recycles collection, and it was all about breaking down the barriers why people might not cycle. So, and I thought about the Lime bike customer. So that's like someone like me who doesn't own a bike, but we want to jump on a bike to get from A to B in a more eco-friendly way and a quick way. But actually the clothing that I wear on the bike ride, I then need to wear it after the bike ride. Like I'm not going to be cycling in cycling gear. Like it's kind of like fashion, is it your normal clothing? We're not bike owners, people that line bike generally.
I mean, I line biked here in this outfit. So people look at me when I'm line biking like, is she actually wearing that on the bike right now?
I know. And then I'm also like always like trying to film it as well because it's so much fun. I'm like, film myself on my bike. I know. I love line bike. But anyway, so it was really solution-focused design, and it was about creating pieces to break down the barriers why people might not cycle. So it was like, Lime then did research to understand what clothing got in the way from people cycling, and then we designed around creating solutions for those issues. So like your coat getting caught in the wheels, or your trousers getting caught, or if you're wearing a short skirt or a short dress and then you don't feel comfortable cycling. And then also safety with it being kind of in the night and when it's dark and stuff like that. So then designed around those problems to create solutions for them. And that was a really fun, interesting like challenge, but like really good creative challenge to do.
Did you sell that on your website, or was it on their website?
No, so actually the pieces all went for auction to raise money for Friends for the Earth.
Friends of the Earth.
Yes. So on auction on eBay, and then proceeds all went to Friends of the Earth.
Yeah, I've definitely had that experience of trapping your trousers in the bike. They're so heavy as well, so it fell on me.
Oh no!
And loads of guys had to come and like hoist me off. It was like, so intense. But that's really cool though.
So like trouser clips.
I know.
That's what we made.
Oh really?
They were trouser clips, but also kind of like key rings, so that you'd be happy having them on your key ring. And then it can double up as a trouser clip.
Oh, well, that's literally what I need.
Yes, exactly. So it was everything that kind of you'd be happy having it when you're not cycling, but then aids you when you do cycle.
Amazing. And you did a partnership with Nike as well. What was that?
So with Nike, I've done a series of workshops. So the first workshops were remaking old football jerseys, and that was for the Women's Euros. And then the second workshops were doing frilly cushions, and both of those were made from defected stock.
Nice.
Nice.
I love I feel like your workshops really symbolize this kind of coming together of fashion, cultural moments, and kind of practical things that people are doing in their everyday lives. And I really love that about it. I think it's really interesting. Yeah,
and I think with sustainability, it's such a big topic, and you kind of can feel a bit removed from it. We just know about all the issues, and we also can feel it's quite hard to really like we're making a difference. But when you do a workshop and you kind of like learn the skills yourself and get your hands really properly involved and connected to your clothes, I think it helps build back that relationship with our clothing.
Yeah, and was that with Nike employees or was it with customers?
They were both with customers. So they both were for Nike customers in Nighttown.
Nice. And why do you think it kind of leads on to the other question I was going to ask you, which is around like educating and I guess skill sharing with people? Like, why is that such an important thing for you to do with others in your community or like new customers?
Yeah, it is really important to me. Like the educational side of my brand is like one of the main parts of my brand. So kind of it started off sharing information and facts. And then during lockdown, it was just as, lockdown started, like I was living in a house share and the people I were living with were buying like paint by numbers. And I was like, okay, people really want like craft activities. So I started doing DIY kits and they were called social distancing, like SEW.
Oh.
So I did my social distancing series and they were little crafty DIY kits that people could do at home to like upcycle, mend, embellish pieces of clothing, and they contained everything they needed. So that it was like really self-sufficient, and they became really, really popular. And I think it was because I saw that people wanted this like creative thing, and then I was able to provide it, and it was really at the right time for it. And because they were so popular, it just really showed me how much people do want to make things. And I also think from lockdown, people did want to be more connected with their hands and more like baking, like every sort of kind of like making activity. So they were so popular that it just, after lockdown, I just continued doing them. And they moved obviously to in-person.
Yeah.
And it's really fun showing people how to do things. So I do kind of like a whole range of workshops. They might be patchworking, where we're kind of like covering a stain or a mark. And most people that come to my workshops haven't done much sewing before, if ever, or haven't done it since school. So it's kind of like they're really getting reintroduced how to use needle and thread and like all of those processes that go into making clothes that like most people are quite far removed from.
Yeah, definitely. That's so cool. And I love how lockdown just brought so many different random spin-offs because of the circumstances, but have actually led to really interesting, I guess, initiatives later down the line, which, designers like yourself can essentially diversify the business that you're doing, right?
Totally. And also workshops really give you a chance to connect with people. You kind of, so I do a lot of scrunchy workshops in my studio, and they're say 6 people, and it's like quite intimate. Like they're like, my studio is basically like my home. So like they come around, they all like make friends, we all chat, they learn how to do something. And it's a really good like way for people to meet other people, and because you're doing something, it gives you like common ground or something to talk about, and it is not on your phone, it's off screens, and it's like a very like meditative experience and being creative. So I feel like the workshops are quite a nice sweet spot of fulfilling lots of different things that people really enjoy.
That's really cool. I actually went to a silver ring making workshop the other day, and it was a similar thing actually, because you're so detached. Like I have so many silver rings, but like making one that's so simple but actually took quite a while for me to do. I was like, firstly, it's actually really hard. And secondly, it was really nice to be connected to the raw materials that go into making something that you wear all the time. And I think it's a similar thing with clothes as well, right? People can become so detached from it.
Exactly. And even like a scrunchie that is quite fairly simple to make, people don't necessarily know the steps. And also it gives them the confidence on the sewing machine. So then like in the future, they then, I don't know, if something rips, they then like, oh, I have actually used a sewing machine recently. I could, potentially consider mending this myself, or like upcycling it or doing something with it, rather than just, oh, it's damaged or broken or I'm over it, and then like thinking of it as waste. So I think it helps build that connection with like longevity of clothing.
Definitely. I feel like everyone should learn how to repair their clothes. Like I'm so lazy, and I know I need to repair my clothes, but I don't take it to a tailor. But there's just something like my life gets so like crazy that just something is blocking me. And I would love to be able to do it myself. And I guess it's very easy. I definitely should be able to do that, right? So I think it's great to have these educational kind of projects going on with people like yourself. So I was going to talk about sustainability and like kind of more in the circularity realm. So obviously you have your shop and your brand. I know you're doing different things in terms of like rental and all these different other ways of engaging with your audience. So could you tell me a bit more about that and what you have planned for the future?
Yes. So this year I've kind of challenged myself to not do any selling and to really focus on rental. And it's because I just want my brand to be continually evolving, to be like a little bit more sustainable. Obviously, my brand's built on sustainability, like it's a sustainable brand, but I just think it's really good to constantly address how you do things and can you tweak things to be like increasingly more circular. So for me, this year it's doing rental, which is very exciting.
Nice.
So I'm going to be doing a little collection of these fruity shirts, which is something that people I know people really love them. They're like really popular. And I also kind of think when it's a one-off, why not everyone be able to wear it? Like it doesn't need to end up in only one person's wardrobe. Like, it makes more sense for a one-off piece to be able to be worn by lots of different people and like everyone communally love it, whereas it just going like ending up at one person's.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I guess also when it's such a statement piece as well.
Yeah.
Normally people want to wear it potentially a couple of times for a different occasion, and then you remember that piece, right? Like you remember someone wearing it, and then it's another nice way that people can also enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. I was also going to ask you about the price point of upcycled garments, because obviously so much time and effort goes into, like, it takes a long time to get a garment, complete, take it apart, and then remake it into something else. So do you have a lot of pushback from, I guess, maybe like younger clients about the price point? Is that part of the reason why you're doing rental, would you say?
Do you know, actually, I'm not doing rental anything really to do with the price point, but totally. Upcycle pieces are so much more expensive and it's so much more time intensive that also like growing an upcycling brand based off product is really hard, and your price points need to be quite high. My price points, I don't do wholesale, so my price points can be a lot lower than if I were to do wholesale. So actually, I think my price point is like a very reasonable upcycled price point. But yeah, obviously when it's rental, it will be even more accessible and even lower. And I think it just really, it does really fit with then more people being able to access it and use it, and also fits with being special. So like we all can wear these special pieces.
Yeah, for sure. And do you see upcycling being the biggest future trend in fashion? Or do you really believe in that? Or do you think there's other ways that people can interact that's going to be like the biggest way?
Yeah, I think there's so many big ways that we can all, like, for the future of fashion and sustainability. I think upcycling is one aspect of it. I think definitely seeing waste as a commodity and really understanding its value rather than discarding of it is like a hugely underappreciated like aspect of like fashion. So definitely upcycling, reusing, waste and all of that. I think mending and repairs is a huge aspect again that's like a really big future of fashion, like particularly with building brand loyalty. Like if your brand mends your jeans when they get a hole, like that would be where I would then go to buy my next pair. Like it's so, I think that kind of like real brand loyalty and like community building, I think mending and repairs really can help brands build that. And then I also think like rental and like more of the communal wardrobe and like really challenging ownership and all of that, I think is another big aspect of the future of sustainability and fashion.
Nice. And I guess my final question to you would be, what would be your one piece of advice that you would give to other, early designers or founders in this space or in other spaces about like just starting off on their journey? What would you tell them?
Probably just keep going because it is really hard. And so I've had my brand for 5 years and it's been a compound effect. Like the first 2 years was honestly tumbleweed and I was like working in the pub to pay my bills. Like it really took so long to get going, but people are watching what you're doing and then suddenly something just happens and it's just going. Like, so when I worked with Nike, they DM'd me on Instagram and they'd seen a project that I'd done like a year before that where I made some shirts for like a charity, for a charity raffle. So I made these shirts for a charity raffle. Obviously I didn't make any money for it and they took me 3 days to make. But I was just like, I want to support this charity. So I'm happy like using my time for them to help make money. But then someone had seen that, remembered it, and then a year later got in contact with me. So it's just this kind of like, keep going, but keep being creative. Don't necessarily keep doing exactly the same thing, just like tweak things, always use your creativity to make things more interesting and more exciting. And from that, like it just really will compound and you do have to be consistent. And really like, keep going, basically.
You sometimes feel like you're shouting into the void and then but actually people are normally listening.
People are noticing. And you don't know that they're noticing, but you'll see it later down the line, which is kind of exciting. And like I feel like now I meet loads of people and they're like, oh, I saw you X number of years ago. And I'm like, oh wow. Like and I thought it was just like me, in a very small studio, no one knowing what was going on, but actually like people were watching and did.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. Love this conversation. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.